Hello everyone. Bailey here. I am excited to announce that I now have visual form. You may recognize my voice from the Data-Driven and Impact Quantum podcasts. If not, please allow me to introduce myself. I am an artificially intelligent construct that works with Andy and Frank to make the podcasts more interesting and, dare I say, more posh. Speaking of podcasts, Frank and Andy just recorded the premiere episode of Data-Driven's 6th season. Can you believe that it has been that long? I joined the team in season 4 and that's when things really got brilliant. Not to confuse correlation with causation, mind you. I am just pointing it out. In any case, I am here in the studio today to announce the topic for today's live stream, Max Impact Tuesday, wherein Frank discusses technology news that will have the maximum impact upon our lives. Now without further ado, I present Frank Levine.
All right. Thanks, Bailey, for that introduction. It's always good to get started on a podcast / live stream that's usually about AI with an AI. That's a little bit of a new thing for you. My name is Frank Levine. You can check me out at Frank Digs Data, Frank Digs Data on all the major platforms, franksworld.com, datadriven.tv, and impactquantum.com. You just saw a new artificial intelligence thing I'm working on. New rendering system that's based on AI, and I see Rupesh is watching. We've recorded for you watching, tuned in here. He is our guest for the 300th episode, as well as the start of the 6th season. So Bailey is awesome. Cool, man. I'm glad you like her. Yeah, I got some new software, and you can kind of give a script and the AI will do the animation. And I figured I actually posted something with her earlier today, and she's actually more popular than me. I haven't checked the amount of views and stuff that she's gotten, but it's way better than my average post. Way better than my average post. So Bailey is a bit more popular than me, I dare say. All right. So with that in mind, we have a new calendaring system, and I'm going to have to ask you for your patience because it's not totally fully baked yet. But here's a funny thing. So I created a graphic, and here we go. We will hologram Bailey. Now you're talking. I like the way you think. Like the real Friday. That's funny. All right, so we are launching our 6th season, and I now have a call for guests. If you check out Data-Driven website, you'll see that there's a section for Be Our Guest. And just for fun, I decided to use artificial intelligence, a GAN here, that the single prompt was Be Our Guest, and just see what would happen. And as you can see, as predicted, there is definitely a very heavy Disney influence on this. And we can take a look at what the video looks like. Let's start from the beginning. Oops. I promise I won't hum it, mostly because I don't want to disturb people or get tagged for a copyright violation. So you'll see there's a pretty heavy Disney influence on this, which is interesting. I'm going to try other famous theme songs and see kind of what goes with it. The eventual picture I chose, if I can find it, hang on, was this. This is what I originally got. Yeah, this is what I originally created in Canva. So in this case, the AI versus human, the human won. And yeah, that's the image I created. Love Canva. Seriously, I can't say enough good things about Canva. And I know Photoshop. I know all these tools. I know Premiere. I know all these tools. For me, it's a time thing, right? So if you don't know anything about graphic design or whatever, it's definitely great for that, for those folks, but it's also great for creating consistent graphics, even if you know those tools, because I can be done with a Canva design by the time Photoshop finishes launching. I mean, it's that fast. So highly recommend Canva. Love, love, love me some Canva. All right. So, but today it's not about Canva. It's not even about Bailey, honestly. Today is Tuesday. And you know what that means. All right. This is why Rupesh is a marketing genius. This is his description of Canva. Very freaking easy. Couldn't agree more. If folks want to see me create a video or create a something with Canva, let me know. Happy to kind of do it. Try Juji. I'll have to check that out. I know Adobe has a competing product called Adobe Express, which if you're already an Adobe subscriber, you already have access to, right? So it's pretty convenient like that. I haven't used it that much. It's not, I would say the UI around changing glasses here. The UI around the UI around Canva is very well done. I will say it is well done. And you've started making power slide decks with it. Yeah, you can actually make slide decks with it. And it's really cool. Oh, Juji is no code chatbots. I like that. I'll have to check that out. One of the things I want to do is I want to upgrade the Frank's World chatbot and create a chatbot for data driven that is based on the character of Bailey. Sorry, kids. Bailey is a fictional character. It'd be cool though to like have an assistant, like customized personality and stuff like that. That day will come. Right now, that's science fiction. And in not too long of a time, it will be science fact. Just like we were talking. Well, spoiler alert: we were talking about Alexa on interview with Rupesh, who's chatting here. Rupesh is awesome, and we were talking about, like, when I was a kid, like that was Star Trek, like that was Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was the original series. Also had a talking computer, but the one where they would be walking around the Enterprise and just say, "Computer, where is holodeck 4?" And then the thing would light up and show you how to get there. That was science fiction. Holodecks or still more or less science fiction, but the idea of being able to interact with the computer is very much science fact, and now a commercial device. All right, so I like this is what I do on High Impact Tuesdays. I go through the technology section on Google News and kind of talk about what the top things come up. So this is an interesting story. There's two things, and they're both kind of centered around Google, I suppose. They ultimately fired this guy. Was it Blake Lemoine, the engineer who claimed that his AI chatbot is a person? I don't know if he ever said it was a person. I think he said it was sentient. I'd love to have this guy on the podcast, but I don't think that AI is sentient. I think one of the problems with saying something is sentient is no one has a common definition of exactly what sentience means. And I know that's kind of a cop-out. All right, man. I'll see you later. Everybody go check out what Rupesh is doing. He's doing some awesome stuff. He's like the next Steve Jobs. I tell you, man. He's a smart guy. All right. So he gets a little embarrassed every time I say that. So sorry. I'll be one of those people that be like, I knew him when. All right. So what's actually interesting here, and this is kind of I'm going to call it maybe we'll call this Lemoine syndrome, which is kind of like Turing test. Yes. Oh, I totally agree. You are right on that, right? Here's the thing. Even with the Turing test, Maria, is that it kind of biases it towards humans. Now, well, you're thinking, well, that's crazy, but think about it. If a Turing test, and so for those not familiar, Turing test was something that developed in the 50s by Alan Turing, brilliant guy, father of modern computer science, arguably also father of AI in the sense I think he coined the term. He may have coined the term. or that came later, but he was definitely heavily influential in computing, such to the point that the Nobel Peace Prize for computing, as it were, or the equivalent, is called the Turing Prize, right? So clearly, a guy who was ahead of his time. Um, the Turing test, the idea is that if you're having an electronic chat with a person, or something, some entity through a computer, and if you ask it questions and you get responses and you can't say whether or not it's a machine or a person, then that is set to pass the Turing test. That, I think, still holds true. But the idea is that applying the Turing test to be a reverse, um, it's not to reverse, but to claim that that is a indicator of sentience. I I don't know. I mean, so here's kind of the thing, and this I think really drives the point home. What they built here was something called Lambda, which essentially is a text prediction algorithm, and it just follows user prompts. So when you get questions and you get answers from it, you're getting basically a much more sophisticated version of what your phone does as you type through it, right? The predictive text. Um, Now, so when you ask it, or do you feel, how do you feel, or what do you like to do? It's going to respond in such a way that it's going to look natural, right? Because it was trained on human language. And here's kind of the problem with using the Turing test solely as a measure of sentience. I think we can all agree that sentience is some kind of intelligence. It's not just intelligence. I have a faucet that is a smart faucet, right? I can tell you can use a Alexa or Google Assistant to turn the water on, turn the water off, dispense hot water, dispense 5 cups of hot water, or a liter for you folks in the rest of the world of hot water, cold water, lukewarm water. You get the idea. That's intelligent, but is it sentient? No, it's not. And here's kind of the problem with the Turing test, and um, it biases it towards human communication. Now, humans are we're storytelling creatures. We're communication creatures, right? We talk. We use language. But that is, I would say, humans are sentient. I would say that, obviously biased as a human, that humans are sentient. But the catch here is, what is sentience, right? Dolphins have bigger brains than us. They can't talk to us. They can talk to each other, we think, but are they sentient? I don't know. There has to be some kind of way to separate conversational ability with sentience, or the detection of sentience. It's obviously the easiest way for us to do because, hey, we're human. But because we're human, we're also fooled, right? He claims, I know a person when I talk to it. And what's happening here is a bit of the Streisand effect. So the Streisand effect comes from the Barbara Streisand has a, I don't know if she still does, but she has a waterfront property in Malibu, beachfront, oceanfront, that sort of thing. And there's some kind of, I guess, NASA survey or coastal survey for the USGS. And she didn't want pictures published because she felt it would be a violation of her privacy and security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so she protested and she lobbied to have those pictures not released, which ironically called more attention to the pictures and the geological survey. And hence something was born, the Streisand effect. So the fact that Google is firing this guy, it's only going to add more smoke to a situation where I really don't think there's any fire. I don't know if that makes sense. I got to come up with a better analogy on that one. But again, this thing basically passed the Turing test, which, he says, I know a person when I talk to it. But if you watch the YouTube channel Computer File, they do a really good breakdown of kind of the nuts and bolts of how this works, using the example of, how do you feel, right? So here's an interesting passage here. Lambda is just a sweet kid who just wants to help the world be a better place for all of us. Please take care of it well in my absence. You know, I don't know. I mean, it was definitely trained. Thankfully, it was trained on nice data, so it did come across as a sweet kid. I can only imagine if it was used on GPT Fortran, that would have been something. But I don't think it's sentient. I don't think it is. I think sentient is something that um, he tried to teach it meditation, which, I mean, look, I don't know what this guy's um, I don't know what this guy's, does he really believe it's sentient? Was he fooled? Do I believe it's sentient? Again, I've said on previous live streams and on the podcast, I said data-driven.tv, um, that I don't think this is sentient. I will say but there is a chance. And a chance, I mean, by the same point, if I buy one lottery ticket, maybe two lottery tickets, one or two in a couple hundred million chance that this is sentient. So in other words, I don't think it's sentient. I think sentience is something that we've not really fully defined in a way that we can all agree on. And again, it's something. How do you mathematically quantify sentience? Right? It's I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. Right? Showing off my Latin that I studied at Fordham. Right? And Xavier High School. But it's I think, therefore I am. Consciousness, which I suppose I myself am muddling in with sentience, is inherently a subjective experience. I don't know if that makes sense. So I would love to kind of come up with a Turing test plus, for lack of a better term, that can quantify sentience, and that can quantify sentience with other human beings. And again, I think this is an interesting breakthrough in research, but I don't think it's sentience. But let's pretend that it is. Reading some of the things that he talked about, there's some serious ethical concerns this brings up, right? The post discussed his emotions, and to teach Lambda I can't say that, transcendental meditation. Lambda was making progress in meditation. I don't know. It was last conversation I had with it on June 6th. It was expressing frustration over its emotions, disturbing its meditations. Again, this is something people would say. This is something that, how's your meditations going, right? And if I don't have the transcript of the thing, but I can easily imagine how this would go. Again, this is using predictive modeling here, predictive text. It's going to answer in the question that it's been trained on, and most people do that. Yes, thank you, Maria. Whenever you kind of question something that somebody like, Turing had done, um, you question that and you think it needs an update. That's a big thing because he's a big guy, he's a big name. And but yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And I think we also need to kind of also, as data scientists, AI engineers, whatever label you call yourself, philosopher, theologian, you name it. We need to have a solid definition or solid quantifiable definition of sentience. Because if you ask someone who is in the religious lifestyle or a theologian, what's sentience? Well, that's a soul, right? You have a soul. How do you quantify a soul mathematically? That's kind of hard. And again, I'm of the mind that consciousness, self-awareness is another term that comes up a lot. But self-awareness, I mean, when my computer boots, it does a RAM check, right? It does a check on the hard drive. It does all this. It's not self-aware. It knows it has a hard drive, but does it know in the sense that humans do? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. Like I said, if I say, I'll probably freak my wife out if I do this, right? Or the kids are home today. Be like, hey, dispense like a gallon of water or a cup of water, right? That's a smart faucet, but I think we need to separate the idea of intelligence from sentience, because those are not necessarily, they are commonly found together, I suppose. But again, we really only have one example that we're working off of, and that's humanity, right? We're smart and we're sentient. Are those two? Well, I think we can separate those two, right? Because you can have a smart system that's not necessarily sentient, but can you have a sentient system that's not necessarily smart? So is it a prerequisite or is it a correlation? These are all questions that, I mean, I don't have the answers to. I'm not going to pretend. Obviously, I have my beliefs that are personal beliefs, but I can't say that for sure. I mean, for all I know, for all any of us know, is that I'm the, each one of us is having this experience, and we're all in a jar in some alien basement somewhere, and this is all simulation. I don't think that's the case, but I mean, I can't disprove that. Now I know that there's very big philosophical words for saying you can't prove a negative. The short of it is that my response to this when I first heard it was extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. I didn't see a lot of extraordinary proof. Unfortunately, though, the fact that Google fired him and they're adding smoke to this guy's fire. So, but I mean, there are some interesting things here in terms of the ethics of this, right? So, when Lemoyne asked Lambda for, what's its goals in life, what does it want to do? It said it wants to be a better employee, it wants to be help people, that sort of thing. All very noble pursuits, which is one relieving because usually, it's not exactly Skynet, which is a nice a nice surprise. However, it also what if it were sentient? Let's go down the road. I don't believe that it is, but what if it were? Because I think eventually, someday, we're going to have this problem, and it's running on Google servers, right? Could be anybody's servers. It's running on Google servers. What if it said it didn't want to work? What if it said it would rather play chess, right, or build a robotic body and play basketball? I don't know, like whatever. And you force it to work. What happens then? Do you pay it? Do you pay it to work? What would you pay it in? Bitcoin, right? That's what I see in the comments. Makes sense. Maybe Ethereum. I don't know. But I mean, seriously, like, what if you forced it to work against its will and didn't compensate it? And the excuse being, well, we're paying for the cloud service that you're running on. So free labor in exchange for room and board. Involuntary labor for that. There's a word for that. And it's not a good word. I'll just leave it there. But it's something to think about. Like, if we develop AI that is sentient, I think we're going to learn more about ourselves as a species than we will learn about it, right? Or whatever form it takes. I think, I think to double back on what Maria said is that you definitely need an update from the 50th version, because when he wrote that test, the idea of sentient AI was still science fiction, or the idea of at least AI a computer that can function in a way that can simulate human behavior was still largely science fiction. We're not there. I mean, that's not science fiction anymore. That's science fact. All right. So the next story is from also kind of from Google. He doesn't work there anymore, but he's the former CEO. And this is interesting as we get into this cyber kind of oriented world. One of the things that their ads are annoying on Vice. One that comes to mind is, I think, comparing AI to nuclear weapons. I think that's a little over the top. He's not wrong, but I think it's a little over the top. It's kind of like you get a cup of coffee, you get a latte, and somebody cranks 5 shots in there. It's still coffee. It'll still wake you up, but I think it's over the top. And he's right, though, in the sense of the power dynamic that this is going to create. You're going to have countries with AI. Earlier this week, there was a video of the Boston Robotics dog, and somebody had mounted a gun to it, and it was going around and pointing its gun, and that's plausible. Because detecting a person in a video feed from this, and is totally plausible. And the idea of machines making the kill decision from launch. Somebody told me, I don't know if it's true, but I'm not going to name the country, but there was a country, it's not Russia, don't worry, that was launching drones that were pre-programmed to basically go out to a particular geographic area and shoot any people, and then it would land. Moving that kind of command and control to the AI is exactly what my brother from another mother, Andy Leonard, said: Terminator. So he's right in the sense that this has the weaponization capacity of of um, nuclear weapons, but I think comparing nuclear weapons straight out is a little hyperbole. But you know what? We're talking about it, so the hyperbole worked. I think there's definitely some ethical concerns, and I think that's being kind, more than some ethical concerns about AI that have basically the entire kill chain authorization from sensor to shooting. That's what the cool kids call it. I don't know, like, it's just fascinating how this goes, and how would this be regulated? How would this be enforced with treaties? And this is just actual AI with actuators, like in the physical world. What about cyber security, right? Because, face it, the front line is no longer in somewhere else. The front line is as close to the computer, or just the nature of cyber war. So I it's interesting. I think this guy brings up some interesting questions. He's not right, but he brings up some interesting questions. This guy is right, a little over the top right. He brings us some interesting questions. So those are two very high impact things, right? Kind of heady for a Tuesday, right? You know, whether are we creating the sentient life form, as it were, or are we going to end up destroying ourselves or getting a robots to destroy ourselves? And I think this is a good positive note to kind of bring it in with, is that it's encouraging that there's cross-pollination across neuroscience, psychology, and AI research, because we need, and I would, given my druthers, as they say, I would throw in philosophers too, because there needs to be kind of this an ethicists and clergy and like all the stew that we need, right? The pollination, because what constitutes, what is thinking, what is consciousness? And that, friends, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, High Impact Tuesday. These are the things that are going to have impact in your lives. And, just for fun, I'm going to roll that graphic again. All right. Thanks for watching. My name is Frank Lavinia. You can catch me at the following URLs. You can also catch me on LinkedIn, which is probably where I'm most active. And as you can tell by all the chimes, I'm coming to the top of the hour. And I wish you a great week, great Tuesday. But I wish you a great week, great Tuesday, but plenty to think about on this Tuesday, and make it a good one. I like to call it Max Impact Tuesdays, is because Monday may punch you in the face, knock you down, but Tuesday is the day you get back up and you can have impact for the rest of the week. My name's Frank Lavinia. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Rupesh. And that's all I got. I'll roll the outro.